In case you can't tell, I was one of those baby boomer hippies who felt like a frickin' genius for bellowing, freedom for all, do your own thing, and we're all one. I believe that if everyone just did their own thing, we'd live in harmony as one. Total freedom would result in total unity. Anarchists unite. So we loosened things up like freedom was an exclusively liberal thing. And then the squares started loosening things up in the name of national unity. Like the Christian nationalists who pretend they're Braveheart, bellowing freedom, by which they mean freedom for them to censor everyone else. I'm no longer a liberal like I was. I'm a liberal conservative and a libertarian socialist. And I bet you are too, because we all are when we aren't busy grandstanding about our own lifestyle brand heroism. By liberal conservative, I mean I'm dealing with a question as old as life itself, what to change and what to keep the same. By libertarian socialist, I mean I'm dealing with a question equally old, what to loosen and what to tighten. Do your thing and we are all one have always been a tightrope walk. I remember the first day I realized it. I was listening to an old political science professor who said politics is an ongoing abrasion, a tension between freedom and justice, equality and liberty. You'll recognize the trade-offs from personal life too. Married versus single, salaried versus freelance. Marriage and salaried are safety at some sacrifice of freedom. Single and freelance are freedom at some sacrifice of safety. Of course everyone wants both. Ideally, you'd be free to do what you want, but if you got in trouble, there'd be a social safety net to save you. It's built right into the oxymoron name for our country, the United States. Which are we, individual states or united? Which am I, me or we? I'm both, as are we all. Though the other day I realized I'm me, we Sherman. I live with that tension, which I want to talk through here and how I think about it, at least today, open to further revision. Civilization can't adapt without free speech, nor survive without unity. How then to have unity and free speech? Here's my best guess so far. The priority skills that all schools must teach and all culture must promote are listening more and insisting less than our emotions would have us do. This would require recognizing how much our guts resist listening and relish insistence. Humans deal with far more doubt and anxiety than any other creatures. Anxiety is an uncomfortable, distracting, emotional alert that something is amiss and has yet to be resolved down to assumptions and habits that govern most of our behavior. We make a gazillion decisions daily by unconscious habit, most of which we have no idea we acquired. The more behaviors we can handle by habit, the more confident and free we feel. We call doubt cognitive dissonance, but that ain't the half of it, and certainly not the bigger half. It's emotional dissonance, gut turbulence. Like if you're choosing between two cancer treatments, either of which could kill or save you. The easiest gut habit is insisting, not listening. Once we acquire that habit, there's just no talking with us. To me, then, the question is how to teach and promote more listening and less insisting than our guts want. And my best guess so far is that we have to teach and promote 3 skills. Actually, it's not just my idea. It's there in what's called Renaissance humanism and what they call the trivium, 3 topics: rhetoric, logic, and grammar, which I'd update to how to spin, how to insist, how to unspin, how to listen, and how to do both even-handedly. To do both even-handedly means making a convincing case for rival insistences, what they call steelman arguments, and a convincing case against our own arguments. Maybe call it self-rebuttal. Our guts resist this even-handedness. Socrates was the first to note it. The trouble with teaching rhetoric and logic, spin and unspin, is that we want to spin up our ideas and apply logical or critical thinking to dismiss rival ideas. This is a point often overlooked. Trumpists are very sophisticated, nuanced, logical, critical thinkers. Just not about their ideals and ideas. About those, they're practically brain dead. Pure insistence, zero listening. There's just no talking to them. You've probably heard of the Dunning-Kruger Effect. People can be so dumb they don't realize how dumb they are. I never liked the name for that effect. I favor naming behaviors in ways that convey what they are. I've joked that the Sherman effect is the distracting tendency to name behaviors after the discoverer of it. It's especially bad when they're named after researchers with unfortunate surnames, Asperger's and Crohn's disease. That's adding insult to injury. The name aside, I don't think the Dunning-Kruger effect is as smart as it thinks it is. The problem isn't just that we can be too ignorant to know that we're ignorant. It's that we don't want to know because it causes anxiety. It's called a cognitive bias, but it's not just cognitive. It's an intensely motivated emotional bias. Psychology in general is not as smart as it thinks it is because it has yet to decide whether we're souls or computers, ghosts or machines. Psychologists waffle on that lots, like saying a hormone triggers an appetite, like we're machines that have these ghostly motivated souls or algorithms that can be physically triggered like a pinball machine. Social scientists in general have yet to explain what a motivation actually is. I've asked top scientists, including the head of the science division of the American Psychology Association. They simply assume that when they see effort, there must have been a motivation. That's like spirit talk. When you see effort, assume a soul, a ghost in the machine. Or they assume that since they can't explain a soul, we're just machines. Dunning-Kruger implies that we're computers that lack the capacity to recognize that we lack capacity. We talk of cognitive dissonance as if it's cognitive. It's largely emotional dissonance. Feeling torn about what to do, ambivalent, confused, on the fence. Being on the fence about what to do hurts our private parts. It's exhausting to try to keep our balance when we haven't yet resolved which way to fall. It's far easier to just fall on both sides at once. Simply resolve to the habit of pretending we're experts on something about which we know little. Absolutely unearned confidence. That's so much easier than the hard, humiliating work of trying to learn. So here in two graphs are my guesses about what's really going on with the Dunning-Kruger effect. I'll split the difference on the name for it. I'll call the first graph the Dumbing-Cruder effect, though you could also call it the dumbass death spiral. Dumbass is the only term I've found that covers both stupidity and being a total jerk. Red is anxiety versus relief from anxiety. Blue is learning versus ignorance. And green is confidence. Think of this as how Trumpies become Trumpies, but it could just as easily cover any seen the light know-it-all behavior. For example, someone who's joined a leftist spirit warrior cult, or someone who saw the light and became a communist at the start of the Soviet Revolution. The lifestyle brand is irrelevant, mere ornamentation. I'll illustrate this graph with me, but it could be anyone. So I'm walking along through life, and then something triggers my anxiety to a higher level. Could be anything. The price of eggs, my wife leaving, being fired or laid off, the people I thought I was better than doing better than I am, or the overall increase in stress we're all experiencing. And then someone who seems to have all the answers shows up. At first, there's some learning just to figure out what they're saying, but it's worth it because I've found my new religion. Again, it could be anything. MAGA, spirituality, God, whatever. I'm awakened to the truth, the last epiphany I'll ever need. I feel like I've discovered the secret, the source of permanent relief from my anxiety. My confidence goes up. Like a dumbass, I stop listening to others and start insisting I found the solution. The dumber I am, the cruder I get. The cruder I am, the dumber I get. But my confidence is through the roof. This is just a sketch. I see some problems with it. For example, since I think that becoming a dumbass is highly addictive, I doubt a dumbass gets sustained confidence boosts. Smokers don't get the same buzz off their 10,000th cigarette that they got off their first. Okay, second graph. My hunch about what the Dunning-Kruger effect really is when you add our gut resistance to doubt. It's not just that we're too dumb to know we're dumb. We don't want to know we're dumb because that's buzzkill. I'll apply it to specializations, not expertise, to illustrate the difference. I think one can be an expert rocket scientist, but not an expert psychologist. Psychology is not rocket science. It's way harder, messier, and more complicated. As Newton, the first rocket scientist, said, I can calculate the movement of stars, but not the madness of men. People sometimes introduce me as an expert on a-holes. I strongly reject that. I'm a specialist, not an expert. And again, I'll illustrate this graph in the first person. So here I am muddling along, feeling okay about myself, and suddenly I encounter someone who introduces me to a big question coupled with their answer to it. Just like Trump introduced a bunch of political noobs to political questions coupled with his pat answers. I'm impressed, less with him than myself. It's my big awakening, my expanded mind, and my expanded confidence. Suddenly, I can hold forth with great confidence about matters of great consequence. I've got all the big questions bundled with all the big answers. What a relief from anxiety. I could leave it like that, like I've had the last epiphany I'll ever need. I could begin my nosedive into the dumbass death spiral, the Dumbing-Cruder effect. But instead, I hit a wall. I realized that my Trump-like guru introduced me to their big answers, but they aren't the only answers, and besides, there are holes in them. My confidence plummets, but I don't just keep insisting I've got the answers. I listen, even though it's humbling, even humiliating. My anxiety is going up, not down. Still, I persist, not to get over a steep learning curve, but over a steep hump, on the other side of which there's incremental learning. I somehow resist my gut impulse to bolt, escaping down the dumbass death spiral. I keep listening and learning, my confidence bobbing up and down until I get enough affirmation that my curiosity is paying off. I gain confidence and competence. That is, calm confidence and calm competence. Not through dumbass ignorance, but through ongoing learning. Apply this to whatever specialization. Your first rock concert with the audience going wild and the rock stars who make it look easy. You could buy yourself a guitar, learn 3 chords, and become a dumbass rock star legend in your own mind. Or you could listen more and insist less, get over the hump, and up that gradual learning curve to be an ever better guitar specialist. My guess is we're in trouble now, and not just from the current popular lifestyle brands like Trump, but what I'd call scaredy brats in general. Scaredy brats have stopped listening. They're scared enough already without having to hear all that noise that threatens whatever dumbass thing they insist is true. They demand freedom and security for them and them only. It's no one's fault, really, though I wish they wouldn't. It's just that life is flooding us with doubts as civilization ventures further and further out on a limb. Our natural response is to get hypersensitive and hyper-prickly, unwilling to listen and insisting, prickly style, that we're right. What we're right about hardly matters. It's a gut thing. Fragile systems, living systems, organisms, relationships, societies, and governments can only survive by means of checks in balance with each other. Their adaptability and unity depends on remaining inherently pluralistic. Unchecked power undermines any kind of checks in balance. Cancer is unchecked power that overruns a body's checks and balance. A totalitarian state can survive, but only if the dictator experiences internal checks and balances, cognitive dissonance. But most don't, because dictators insist and won't listen. That's why I think we need to make listening more and insisting less than our guts prefer a cultural goal. Not taken to the extreme of only listening and never insisting. No, how to spin up your arguments, unspin rival arguments, and the reverse, how to spin up rival arguments and unspin our arguments despite our gut's resistance. I've got what I call a 5-minute rule. I'm a testy guy. If I'm triggered, I get 5 minutes to insist and not listen. And then I have to visit what I call the Youmeus question. Is the problem you, me, or us? For that, I have to stop insisting and I have to start listening. I need to be able to make a steelman argument on behalf of my challenger and a self-rebuttal argument against myself. You can test me on my powers of self-rebuttal if you like, anytime. I bet I can make a compelling case against everything I write, including this. I don't have to agree with it, but I can make that case and make it convincingly. And a reminder, if you're stuck dealing with someone who won't listen and insists with absolute certainty, or if you're having trouble with all the stress and doubts you're dealing with, get in touch. Those are my specialties in private strategic consultation, first half hour free. Or get in touch if you want to be on the mailing list for our free study group on how to deal with the hyper-insistent folks who won't listen. Thanks for listening and wondering with me as I insist on my educated guesses, which could be wrong, so I'm listening too, despite my gut's reaction to hearing challenges to its dumbass seen the light authority.